Hello, Ajahn John here. Money burning a hole in your pocket means that you want to use that money to buy some pleasure or happiness. We probably associate this feeling with people who normally don't have money, and when they get it, they have a strong desire to use the money and convert it into pleasure. In the case of the girl in the picture, the pleasure she is hoping for is to use some drugs, which is likely to be a short-term pleasure, followed by self-destruction in the end. I think I can remember having this feeling when I was a teenager, and maybe when I started work, when suddenly I had some money in my pocket and I said to myself, oh, what can I buy? What can I do with this money? There was a sudden great sense of power that I had the wherewithal, W-H-E-R-E-W-I-T-H-A-L, wherewithal, to obtain anything I wanted. Maybe when I was around 15 and I got my pocket money from my father or from my part-time job delivering newspapers, I suddenly had a feeling like I was a millionaire and I could go and buy those things which previously I could only dream of. Of course, I usually ended up buying sweets, running down to the local grocery shop and looking for some chocolates or one of my favorite candies. As you know, kids do not always make the wisest choices when buying stuff. Then later, when I started work in my early 20s, this feeling that money was burning a hole in my pocket came back again. Now, of course, I was earning a salary much more substantial than pocket money, so I could buy much bigger things like a car, a house, furniture. But I have to admit that that feeling has long since disappeared. It burgeoned in my youth, burgeoned, B-U-R-G-E-O-N-E-D, in my youth, but as I got older it diminished and now I would say has all but disappeared. Now having some money in my pocket does not feel like it is burning a hole. In fact, on the contrary, I often can't think of anything I want to buy. Isn't it a pity that money doesn't continue to give us pleasure and satisfaction? Or perhaps it's just that I should be poor again. Then I could re-experience the great excitement of having money for the first time. In fact, having money as you get older can be more negative than positive sometimes, because you may buy things which are detrimental to your health or to your happiness. You learn that spending your money wisely is not such an easy thing. I remember, for example, in my late 20s I bought a very nice car, a kind of sports car, which at first I was really excited about. It was extremely fast, and when I sat inside it I felt sort of special. Often on a Sunday when I wasn't working, I used to drive around London, seeing how fast I could circle the city. I don't know if you know, but around the city of London is a big highway called the M25. M means motorway, and this highway circles the city of London a bit like the expressway in Bangkok. And at that time we did not have speed cameras, so it was quite easy to break the speed limit without getting caught by the police and having to pay a hefty fine, Hefty. So I remember racing around London and seeing how quickly I could make one circuit. But I soon got bored with this. But I was still very proud to own the car. I would spend a lot of time washing it, polishing it, even paying minute attention to the wheels, shining them until I could see my face in them. But after a while I began to realize the car was taking up too much of my time, and I was neglecting doing some of the things which I had previously liked to do, like walking, for example. And furthermore, I was always worrying about the car. I worried about where I was going to park it, whether it might be stolen or somebody might damage it. So after around 6 months I decided that it was just too much of a headache, and I sold it and went back to having an old car which I didn't have to worry too much about. So I think that taught me a valuable lesson, which was that money can sometimes take you down the wrong road when you spend it expecting to get pleasure, when you only have $20 in your pocket and you can only buy some food or maybe go to see a movie or go out for dinner. You can't make any serious mistakes, but when you have a lot more, it is quite possible to make your life complicated and therefore decrease your happiness, although that is definitely not what you had expected. Do you think it's better to spend money or to save it? I think we all pursue money. We try to earn a lot of money because we think it is going to be a source of happiness for us. And we have the idea that the greater the amount of money, the greater the happiness. But I think research has shown this to be untrue. I think research in the West has shown that people's happiness increases in direct proportion to their money, up to around, I think, $30,000 a year, something in that region. But after that level, the more money they make can actually lead to a decrease in their happiness. So what does that tell us? I suppose the obvious thing is that the things we really need, we don't need a lot of money to buy. So the things which really do bring us happiness are enough money to buy food, to have a nice home, good clothes, and some comfortable furniture. After that we begin to buy more luxuries, but the luxuries perhaps do not bring us additional happiness, although we cannot stop looking for it. It is difficult to let go of the idea that the more money we have, the greater happiness we have. So here's today's essay question. Is the amount of money we have directly proportional to the amount of happiness we have? First paragraph. Money is an essential tool we need in society to buy things. Essential things such as food, clothes, accommodation, and medical care when we are sick. Without money, we will certainly be very unhappy. Second paragraph. I'm going to argue that the more and more money we have does not make us more and more happy. For the poor homeless man living on the street, a little bit of money is certainly going to increase his happiness enormously. To be able to buy the simple comforts of life, clean clothes, healthy food, have a comfortable bed to sleep in at night. These basic necessities can be acquired if you have the money to buy them. However, unlike money, happiness is not an ever-increasing thing. Money can keep increasing. We can have thousands, then millions, then billions. But this is not the situation with happiness. In fact, some of the things in life which make us really happy are entirely free, such as good health, for example. Happiness increases very dramatically when we are acquiring the basic necessities of life, such things as I have mentioned: food, accommodation, good clothes, some entertainment. But after these basics, the stuff we buy leads to only a small increase in happiness, or indeed may be negative, leading to a decrease in happiness. For example, if you have a car, then you buy a better car, it's not going to make a great deal of difference to the way you feel. I have a friend who last year bought a really expensive car. Before that, he had been driving an old banger, B-A-N-G-E-R, for several years, and sometimes he was too embarrassed to leave the car outside when he came to visit me. He would leave the car several blocks away so as I could not see what he was driving. Then he bought the new car, which cost him a great deal of money. In fact, he had to take a loan from the bank. And indeed, on the first day he came to visit me in his new car, he was extremely proud, like a father who has just had his first child. I went out with him for a spin, and I remember him smiling all the way. However, within only a few weeks, he became quite bored with the car. The initial novelty and the excited expressions on his friends' faces disappeared. He began to regret having spent so much money, and even said that in some ways he missed his old banger because he had gotten so used to it. Third paragraph, saying something in support of having more money. On the other hand, if you are really into luxury and self-aggrandizement, maybe having a private aeroplane, a private yacht, and 2 or 3 houses may make you happier, at least until the illusion disappears. Final paragraph. In conclusion, I think it is quite obvious that our happiness does not increase in proportion to our wealth. But if you are able to deceive yourself in the long term, maybe you can believe it does. That's the end of the essay. So if you won $1 million on the lottery tomorrow, would it change your life very much? What would you do differently to what you are doing now? I'm going to think on that question myself a little bit, and now I will say good night.